Welcome to Veterans Chronicles. I'm Greg Corombos. Our guest in this edition is U.S. Army veteran David Bellavia. Staff Sergeant Bellavia served in Kosovo and later in the Iraq War, where he participated in several intense battles, including Najaf, Bakuba, Mosul, and Fallujah. Bellavia was later honored with the Medal of Honor for his service during Operation Phantom Fury in Fallujah in November 2004. He was the first living Medal of Honor recipient from the Iraq War. David Bellavia is an Army man, but he was born on the 200th birthday of the Marine Corps, November 10th, 1975. And it wouldn't be the last time that date played a critical role as he served his country. David Bellavia was born into a family that knew the meaning and the significance of service, and it's known it for generations.
My grandfather, my mother's father, is 100 years old, still alive, and he was from the Normandy campaign and Bronze Star recipient, and very proud of, he got the hedgerows, which were, Normandy was a campaign that went on for a month. And so it's not just the D-Day landing, but the second, third, fourth waves that went through. He told me stories from as a little boy, probably stories you shouldn't tell a little boy, but he told me them, and I just developed a romance about serving. I really thought it was a noble and, a noble profession.
In 1999, David joined the military, and there was never any doubt that he would join the Army.
I just felt like if you're going to join the military, you want the Army. You want to be an infantryman. Who joins the Army to bake cakes? I don't want to do that. I want to join the military. I want to get the experience. I just never thought I would do it at war at that time. Late 90s, it was Kosovo, and Kosovo really wasn't a war. So, it was, I was through college, so I was older, and I was treated like I was the father from day one. I mean, the soldiers were 18, 19. I was, approaching 30. So, it was a huge difference in age. I was a father at the time, so I looked at them like surrogate children in a way, and so to me, it was a pretty easy transition.
During his first few months in the service, family medical issues forced Bellavia to stay close to home in upstate New York. But once the terrorist attacks hit our country on September 11, 2001, Bellavia says the lives of just about everyone in the military changed significantly.
Well, as soon as it happened, everyone got orders. I think fax machines ran out of ink, on the 12th of September. Everyone was going somewhere, and you knew that it was going to be a while. For me, it was 3 years away from home, and it was continuous. And, I regret missing those important moments in my son's life. But at the same time, I don't think I could have, not been there, because it becomes your surrogate family. And, you want to be there for him.
Bellavia was deployed overseas in 2003, but not to Iraq or Afghanistan. Instead, he was sent to Kosovo. And he says there's no assignment he hated more during his 6 years in uniform.
Those were the worst 9 months of my life. I would do 5 combat tours over 4 months in Kosovo. It's just nothing going on with an infrastructure that's so poor that you could literally cave a road just by driving a Humvee. It was just avoid accidents, avoid danger. We lost 2 pilots. They hit a gondola wire with their Apaches. The mission in Kosovo was, of course, to keep the peace between ethnic Albanians and the Serbs, but the sidebar was you're going to Iraq. So 6 months is how long you normally spend in Kosovo. We trained every day and did 15-hour patrols. So we were doing 2 jobs getting ready for Iraq, and they extended us an additional 3 months, and that was just so boring. Just training, no going home, no, finer comforts, and just avoiding a really beautiful mountainous area, but a very dangerous area to operate in.
In February 2004, Bellavia was sent directly to Iraq from Kosovo. By then, the insurgency was growing in Iraq, and Bellavia and his unit were deployed along the Iraqi border with Iran. He believes that experience prepared him well for the intense, close fighting in Anbar province.
You know, we were in the Diyala province, which is on the Iranian border. So we were fighting Iranian Revolutionary Guard, Quds forces, Iranian regulars. And they're very good at what they do, and they're trained, they're professionals. And so it was this constant, intermingling between fighting amateurs to fighting passionate people that really don't have any idea what they're doing, and then fighting passionate professionals who, do what they know what they're doing. So had we had Fallujah at the beginning of our rotation, we would have had a lot of loss. Having Fallujah when we had it, we had Najaf under our belt, we had our Charlie Company go to Mosul, we'd been all over the country fighting. It came at the best time because we had that experience, we weren't new, and we were ready to go. I didn't know what close quarter combat was until I went to Iraq, and it's not 30 meters, it's 2 feet. And so when you are experiencing that with a unit in close quarter combat, you start to become a little bit more steely towards it and, want opportunities to do it.
Fallujah proved to be some of the most difficult urban fighting the U.S. has ever seen. Bellavia says soldiers had gotten some education on urban combat, but it was the experience in those early months of his deployment that did the most to prepare him and his men for the fighting that lay ahead.
I mean, we certainly could have, done well on a dissertation. I don't have the degree from Yale, but the degree from the University of Bakuba and Baghdad, and those are, it's really, we've been talking a lot about urban fighting. In America, our only real history, Black Hawk Down, we talk about from 93, 97% of those casualties are outside the house. We have Way City in Vietnam, we have Seoul, Korea, 51, and then the two ones that we studied the most are Grozny, which were Nazi Soviet fought, and the Battle of Berlin, which Americans weren't there to begin with. So we have a limited urban fighting experience. The Iraq War changed all of that. And so now you have subject matter experts that have not only tell you what works, but can tell you from experience what doesn't work. And I was blessed to at least have had some pretty, education, on-the-job training, from before we got to Fallujah.
The Battle of Fallujah began in early November of 2004. Bellavia says that battle began the same way many of the battles in Iraq began, by having to respond to our supposed Iraqi allies turning tail and surrendering to the enemy.
Pretty much everything that led to every battle in Iraq at that point was just really poor management. We trusted a bunch of Iraqis to take care of their city, and they took all of our equipment, our uniforms, and gave it to the enemy and became the enemy. So now our enemy not only is fighting us with our own equipment, they're wearing our own uniforms. So psychologically, for a 19-year-old kid, you're telling them, keep that helmet on, that helmet's gonna save your life. And then you're teaching them, this is how you destabilize that helmet. And this is where you shoot on that helmet to kill the bad guy who's wearing it. And they're thinking, wait, what if the bad guy shoots that same area, and you then have to tell them of the ring of Jesus fire that surrounds every American soldier? It's tough. Psychologically, it's difficult to tell people, we're going to do something together, but I'm also going to show you how to go through the very thing you trust is going to save you. Let's teach and educate ourselves on how to destabilize it. A lot was asked of those young people, and they did outstanding work.
One of the things Bellavia learned from his experience leading up to Fallujah was the critical importance of taking quick, decisive action. He says failing to do so would almost undoubtedly put your life and the lives of those around you in great peril.
Right. The only sin that you could commit in combat is the failure to make a decision. You make the wrong decision, I could fix that. You make the right one, we'll keep doing it. But failure to make a decision is what gets people killed every single time. And it's not like you have to think about it. You know instantly that you didn't make a decision and now we're suffering for it. And so rank becomes ceremonial when you get shot at. You're either a leader or you're not a leader.
Another challenge for Bellavia and his friends was confronting enemy fighters massively under the influence of drugs. Bellavia says that not only made them harder to kill, but also created dangers in both the near and long term for any American who came in contact with them.
Yeah, so we ran into a bunch of folks that were, honestly, if I was fighting against the United States military, I'd probably get high too. to be honest with you. So I understand they were shooting a lot of opioids, IV needles, and it was because they knew they were going to die. And they didn't want to be sober when they were about to get killed, and we were going to kill them. That's why we were there. So a lot of these guys were in the process of tying off arms, needles, but what you get is blood-on-blood contact with needle users and constant, going on essentially AIDS medication and all the different concerns these guys had when they came home. It wasn't just, and it takes a lot to put down someone who's high. So what would normally take 3 or 4 rounds took magazines, and then you would have to change magazines. They're still coming at you. It's not about what someone can do physically. It's what they can endure emotionally. And if you're a real leader, you're constantly watching what your guys can do. And the moment they get to the point where they can't do it anymore, you're pulling them out because you're going to break this guy. And this guy's going to go home broken. And the last thing you want is a person with those skills to be broken. So it was constantly monitoring what your subordinates were able to endure and depending on the guys who had a little bit more in the reserve to push them more. Because it's horrific. You don't expect guys to endure the injuries that these folks did. It was tough fighting.
One of the reasons Bellavia and his men were well prepared for Fallujah was because of the tough, old-school training of Command Sergeant Major Stephen Falkenberg. On November 9th, 2004, Falkenberg was killed in Fallujah. Bellavia says Falkenberg had a tremendous influence on his life and his readiness for combat.
Sergeant Major Falkenberg was like a surrogate father to me. Never once told me he loved me. I don't think he said my name. For a while, I thought I was Staff Sergeant Jesus Christ, because that's all I heard before my name. Always yelled, screamed, barbed wire personality. He talked like John Wayne and Ross Perot had a child. He had this weird Indiana accent that mixed with Kentucky. But I would have gone through hell with a bucket of gasoline for that guy. I mean, we loved him so much, feared him. And when he's the first casualty in the entire Battle of Fallujah, that was just a morale killer. This guy had been to every fight we've had, been in the Army 20 years, should have never been there. And the craziest part is I thought he was an old man. He was 46, and I'm 44 right now, and I'm thinking to myself, my God, I was the same age as Sergeant Major was, and I thought he was a dinosaur. When we lost him, it was real that any one of us could go at any minute, and that it had nothing to do with your skill or your urge to fight. It was dumb luck, and we just had to embrace this random lottery. If you open a door, it's going to happen. So let's just keep going until it happens. Run the table until your luck runs out. And honestly, it's a horrible way to play roulette, but it's a great way to fight a war.
When we come back, the battle for Fallujah and the actions which earned David Bellavia the Medal of Honor. I'm Greg Corumbus. Please stay with us on Veterans Chronicles. This is Veterans Chronicles. I'm Greg Corumbus. Our guest this week is David Bellavia, a U.S. Army veteran and a veteran of the Iraq War. He was the first living recipient of a Medal of Honor for an Iraq War veteran. And now we continue his story from the Battle of Fallujah. On November 10th, 2004, Bellavia's 29th birthday, Bellavia would take actions that would eventually result in him receiving the Medal of Honor. He explains why that day makes him think of the Marines and how the fighting began.
Well, first of all, my birthday is the Marine Corps' birthday. And the reason why I joined the Army was because they asked me if I was worthy to have a birthday the same as the Marine Corps, and I said yes. And they were upset with that. They kicked me out, so I joined the Army. But November 10th is a day like any other day. I don't even think about my birthday. And then we get this mission to track down 8 to 10 bad guys. It's always 8 to 10. It's rarely 8, never 10. But you're looking for 10 guys, and you realize that it's not just, well, I'm going to get 1 or 2 of them. They're going to bring you into a fight, confine you, neutralize your technology. And then what they like to do is psychologically debilitate you. So they want to injure one of your guys and leave them there to announce that this guy's suffering. So it was always that in your back of your head is, do I want to use too many guys, not enough guys? You could lose everyone in one room. And we're just chasing these guys back and forth, and we finally find them. And it was just, we took a long break to just get some chow and get some water. And we were right next to them. They just waited for us. They heard us the whole time. And they, machine guns, everything went off. We had a reporter with us, Michael Ware from Time Magazine. He recorded the whole thing. And it was just, establishing what's in front of you, what can I do, and just play your hand until, you run out of luck. And I just kept going until I couldn't go anymore. And I never thought about how many, is this the same guy? It's dark, you can't really see. So you just keep moving. And, I walked out and I got lucky.
Most of us will never know what close urban combat is like. Here, Bellavia shares the mindset he took into that chaotic environment and how it helped him to survive.
Yeah, I think you have to think at a certain level. When you stop thinking, you go through so many weird, I'm super confident and I'm insecure. You feel like Thor, when you're scared of something and then you see that thing scared of you, it's an incredible rush of adrenaline. And now you're like, I'm hunting this guy, he's afraid of me. And then you take him down and you realize that guy shot your guy, that guy tried to kill you. And then all of a sudden you turn around and a bullet comes right towards your face. And then I'm too confident. I should never have done this. This was a stupid idea. Why am I in the Army? So you're just constantly going to extremes. And you really don't have time. If you thought about everything, you wouldn't do it. But if you don't think at all, you're going to get hit instantly. You have to just play the angles. Who thought geometry was ever going to come into use? But when it comes to angles and it comes to bullet speed, and you got to take whatever they give you, and that was a huge thing.
On November 10th, Bellavia and his team cleared the first 9 houses they came to without incident. The 10th was a much different story. Multiple enemy fighters with machine guns hid under the stairs and took aim at the Americans. Bellavia switched weapons with an M249 saw gunner to keep the enemy under fire. He eventually called for more firepower from a Bradley fighting vehicle. Bellavia exited the house to allow the Bradley to open fire, but he did not get the results he expected.
It was just, we don't know how many people are in there. We assume 2 at the least. But I figured if the Bradley, what I didn't want to happen, I wanted a bomb. I couldn't get a bomb. A bomb in Fallujah was like a number at the DMV. Everyone wanted to renew their license. Everyone's getting bombs all over the city. I got a number. We're waiting, and that number's not coming up. So the Bradley can't maneuver because the streets are narrow. There's not enough distance between the street and the wall to get shots in. But I figured they're not going anywhere. So we have them fixed. And Iraq became a war about my chances aren't. I don't care if my chances are good or bad. I care that you're there. Every time we fought this enemy, it disappeared. It ran away. I got these boys in a building. They're not leaving. So they're not going to go kill anyone or hurt anyone. Let's go get them. There was just a lot more people in there than I anticipated. And that bomb didn't come nearly as quickly as it should have. And then the fear was that the bomb is going to come in while we're in there. And so now we have to get out, bomb lands. The bomb came a little too late, but what are you going to do? It came.
So Bellavia went back in. After initially having to back out after taking fire from 2 enemies, he targeted and killed an insurgent setting up a rocket-propelled grenade launcher. He also shot another enemy fighter who fled to the kitchen. Bellavia then moved to an adjacent room and quickly made sure it was clear. The fighter then attacked from the kitchen, and Bellavia eliminated him as well. At the same time, an insurgent who had already been firing at Bellavia from the stairs made the mistake of exposing his position. Bellavia killed him as well. Another enemy then jumped out of a wardrobe but tripped and knocked the furniture over. This allowed Bellavia to take cover behind the wardrobe. After a brief exchange of gunfire, the enemy ran upstairs and Bellavia followed and eventually killed him. Just as he thought the immediate threat was behind him, even lighting a cigarette, Bellavia noticed yet another enemy fighter, jumping from the third-floor roof down to the second-floor roof, landing just 3 feet from Bellavia, but briefly dropping his weapon in the process. Bellavia shot the enemy once and then several more times until the enemy fighter fell off the second floor to the garden below. David Bellavia saved his squad that day, but he looks at it all with great humility. He says after fighting for a while in Iraq, you can just sense and smell that someone is probably around the next corner.
I mean, look, you're confused. You're going through your head. You're thinking, am I hallucinating? You're tired. You haven't eaten. We all had mild temperatures. I mean, Fallujah was left abandoned for 6 months. You had bodies all over the streets. That the bacteria was just festering. We all had strep throat within 3 days of being at Fallujah. Everyone had a temperature and diarrhea. It was horrible, but you don't know what you're seeing. You can't trust your eyes. You can't trust what you're hearing because your hearing's shot. So really, I'm going by smell. And if a guy lives in an abandoned house, he starts to smell. And you smell his back, you smell his teeth, his breath. You smell the way he's using the restroom. And you also know that these guys aren't eating well. So they're getting upset stomachs. So I would smell a certain type of gas or a certain type of breath, and I would be like, someone's living here. You would see it. Our guys would have a conversation, and then everyone would just, like, spidey sense, because they would see, like, an orange fresh cup or a plate that was clean and everything else has dust on it, and it was like, someone's here. So that was something we learned a long time ago, but that state of awareness, being ready for it. But at the end of it, I was thinking, I know what I can do and I can't do anymore. So if there's another 4 or 5 guys in here, I'm gonna take a TV timeout because this is a lot, and I'm getting my ass. I mean, I was getting beat up. I just didn't have the physical ability to do any more that hour.
Bellavia also says urban combat took a toll on everyone, and everyone was injured in one or more ways. He says the question was whether you could continue to fight.
First of all, everybody who exchanges semi-automatic fire within 5 feet is injured, right? I mean, that's every guy has a graze, scratches, cuts, glass, metal, everything blowing up in your face. Everyone's injured. Who's hurt? Who has to leave? And if you don't leave the battlefield, traditionally, you're okay to fight. And very few of our guys, the guys who left the battlefield, were multiple gunshot wound guys. They were frag guys. But the guys who just had cuts, scrapes, and gouges, they never took a step backwards. So that was our thing.
When we come back, the rest of David Bellavia's story. Why he left the army the year after the Battle of Fallujah, why he soon went back to Iraq, and his reaction to learning he would receive the Medal of Honor. I'm Greg Corumbus. Stay with us on Veterans Chronicles. You are listening to Veterans Chronicles. I'm Greg Corumbus. Our guest this week is David Bellavia. He is a U.S. Army veteran, a veteran of the Iraq War, and a recipient of the Medal of Honor. We just chronicled the harrowing Battle of Fallujah and the actions for which Bellavia would eventually receive the Medal of Honor. But as we pick up the story, we learn why Bellavia left the U.S. Army soon after the Battle of Fallujah, why he went back to Iraq, and what it's like to be the only living recipient of the Medal of Honor from the U.S. war in Iraq. In 2005, Bellavia left the U.S. Army. He says the 6 years of active duty and a very long stretch of serving overseas was taking a toll on his family.
I've been away for 3 years. I left, and my kid was learning how to walk, and he's now getting ready for kindergarten. Now he's in kindergarten. I miss bike rides and baseball, and these guys weren't in danger anymore. A lot of them were getting out. A lot of them were moving on. I thought the war was going to end. Had I known the war was going to go on for 10 years, I never would have left. I would have stayed. But I really thought we licked them and we won it, and I was wrong.
But he couldn't quite stay away. A short time later, Bellavia was back in Iraq working with the media. And he says that work was actually far more dangerous than his time in uniform.
Yeah, so the embedded reporters at that time were just like balcony journalists. They were standing out there hearing a story. They'd film it. They would just film it and tell the story. And it got to the point where they heard a rumor that something happened, and like, well, Joe's going to make up stuff. Of course he is. That's all he does. He's got no TV and internet. He's going to tell you a story. It doesn't mean it happened, you know. But the enemy was doing the same thing. So I just decided, what are you afraid of? You don't want to put your big name reporter out there. I'll shoot your B-roll. So I just went around Iraq in cabs and just trying to find areas that I knew were bad and just try to document that for wire services. And it was actually far more dangerous than being a soldier. It was a suicide mission because there's no one there they don't care about you. I didn't realize how tough I was when 11 of my friends had machine guns. Turns out I'm a little tougher with my friends there, but it's tough when you're alone and you don't trust anybody, you don't speak their language, and you're getting played. You're about to get kidnapped. Like, you hear them talking and you're like, oh man, I'm armed with a Yankee hat and a Soviet nothing. I got nothing to defend myself. It wasn't worth it. And it gives me more respect to the embedded journalists who did it for so long. Those guys are real heroes, because that's a horrible thing to do. It's tough.
Bellavia received a Silver Star for his action in Fallujah in 2004. But it was 15 years later that he found out that award would be upgraded to the Medal of Honor.
It's, you don't even think about it. It's like you're nominated for so long. The Oscars, they say it's an honor to be nominated. Well, 15 years, it was just a real honor to be nominated for the Medal of Honor. I didn't need any of it. The Army's been great to me. My soldiers are great to me. We share this experience, and I just didn't think it was a big deal. I didn't think that it was going to be all this, and it was. And so the only thing I knew how to do was, I went through hell with these guys. I might as well go through this hell with these guys. And so we just did everything together. We go places now. I take my soldiers with me. We go to the White House. I took my guys with me, and we just go through the awkward, weirdness of all this together. It makes it worth it.
The process for awarding the Medal of Honor is complex, and Bellavia does not pretend to understand it. But he strongly believes far more living Iraq War veterans are deserving of the nation's highest award for valor.
Honestly, it shouldn't be that way. The fighting in Iraq is every bit as tough as any other fight. But we don't make these decisions. The process is super secret. But it is embarrassing to be the only living guy. I'm a guy from Buffalo, can't get my sideburns even, and now, I'm the only one for my entire war of, 4 million people. It was very awkward. It's still awkward even being one of two, and there should be at least 30 of them. And hopefully we'll have another. Alwyn Cash would be the first African-American recipient from the War on Terror. But Alwyn Cash is someone who deserved this award a long time ago, and he's a hero of all of ours. So hopefully we're going to get more, but his posthumous. He lost his life, when he earned it. So we need more living recipients, and hopefully they'll come.
Many recipients of the Medal of Honor speak of the burden of being a Medal of Honor recipient and all that goes with it. Bellavia sees it more as a great responsibility that he hopes will change him for the better as the years go on.
Well, look, if I get a DUI, I'll tell you what the first sentence is going to read. It's Medal of Honor recipient does something stupid, right? And you've got to live with that. And people, I think, are expecting you to be maybe a prima donna or do whatever. And so I am extra certain that they see the military for what it is. We are different. We look different. We love different. We worship different. We vote different. I've got guys, Black, Hispanic, Muslim Americans. You put a flag on our shoulder, and it's one family, it's one team. We do our job. We don't complain. We disagree, but we love and respect each other. And that is what it takes to win a fight. That's what you need. Everyone's in. And so I come home and I look around and I'm just thinking, man, maybe everyone has to have that awkwardness of being forced to be with someone. Yeah, he snores. His feet stink. This guy chews and breathes with his mouth at all times. And I have to deal with you. And I'll tell you what, I will do anything for that guy, because that guy who breathes and chews loudly is going to take a bullet for you because he considers you to be his family, more than his family. It's the most beautiful sacrifice I've ever seen. And we're all changed because of combat, but it doesn't mean that we're negatively changed. You can be positively changed from a horrible experience. And my experience is that I'm better for it. I want to be better for it.
U.S. Army veteran, Iraq War veteran, and Medal of Honor recipient, Staff Sergeant David Bellavia. I'm Greg Corumbus, and this is Veterans Chronicles. Hi, this is Greg Corumbus, and thanks for listening to Veterans Chronicles, a presentation of the American Veterans Center. For more information, please visit AmericanVeteransCenter.org. You can also follow the American Veterans Center on Facebook, and on Twitter, we're at AVC Update. Subscribe to the American Veterans Center YouTube channel for full oral histories and special features, and of course, please subscribe to the Veterans Chronicles podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks again for listening, and please join us next time for Veterans Chronicles.